Hash House and Circle Up.
Welcome to On, the Hash House Harrier podcast for interviews, history, and stories. I'm your host, Ra.
Today on the podcast, we are in Scandinavia. And it's true, you don't have to be born a Viking. You can become a Viking by choice. Welcome today on the podcast, a longtime Hasher, a longtime Norwegian resident, Vicar. Hi.
Hi.
All right, let's introduce you to people with your hashing origin story. When, where, and how did you get to your first hash?
Yeah, I started in 1983 in Saudi Arabia. I was working there for this Norwegian company, which I work with now. If you've been in Saudi Arabia, there's not a lot to do. So one of the big pastimes was to go hashing. Well, I'd never heard of it before, but I'd recently started running and did a bit of orienteering and suddenly discovered hashing. I found a bunch of guys going out in the desert. That was in Riyadh. I was with a Solomon Air hash. There was a few others around, but the Solomon Air was the one I got into because the other guys were there and the colleagues. And I just loved it from the start.
Okay, Saudi Arabia in 1983. What was the climate there? It can get pretty hot in the middle of summer.
We'd hash on Friday afternoons, starting late afternoon, about 4 o'clock. But around Riyadh, it was a pretty dry climate. It was hot, but it was like sitting in front of a hairdryer. Everything just evaporated away. It was more to do with the running in those days than the drinking, because obviously being Saudi Arabia, there was restrictions. But there was various ways around that. So some guys really stretched their imaginations, and everyone was doing home brew there, wine and beer. But where you might get caught is not in your house, but maybe transporting it to and from. So some guys actually got the idea of that they would take the ingredients to brew beer and wait out into the desert as raw ingredients, mix them, bury them in the sand, then return a month later where it had all fermented and they had a brew ready to dig up.
Wow. Okay, let's find out a little bit what Solomon Air hash was like then in 1983. All men?
There's quite a lot of families. But of course, the majority of men because of the restrictions that were there at the time. But you could either go on bachelor status, as most of us were, or family status. A lot of guys lived there in compounds with other families and had the kids there as well. But I think the pack size was probably 120 to 150 in those days. It was big.
How long was the circle? Were you out in the desert? Were you able to have a circle? It was a big group?
Yeah, we were pretty isolated out in the desert. And of course, that was 83. That was pre-internet and email. We had telefax in those days. But the week before, you got to hand out A4 of how to navigate to the next run. It would normally be like a maybe 30, 40K ride into the desert to 20 miles. So we got out of the population areas.
All right, so
it was really nice. So gravel deserts, not so much sand around Riyadh. It was gravelly. And so these canyons, wadis. So it was really nice running terrain, actually.
okay, you got huge number of people in the club. How long was it before you set a trail?
Can't actually recall. I got my 50th run log there. So I was there about 4 years in Saudi Arabia altogether, but only the first year was concentrated on Riyadh. Then I was spread about a bit. But I did set a couple of runs within that time.
Was it a dead trail, and did you do it by yourself, co-hairs?
We'd normally be at least 2 to set the trail. And all the other things like the drinks, it was taken care of centrally. It was basically just to, go out and recce the trail and set it on the day or the day before.
And how'd they mark trail there?
There was a flower.
Yeah, okay. Blazing sun, that stuff can disappear, but it does get eaten up by the wildlife too.
Yeah, it was pretty good there, unless it was really, really windy.
What about hash names? Did you get named there, or what was the traditions there? Singing?
Yeah, they did the toned down version of most of the songs. The main one was He's True Blue. There wasn't a big array of songs at that time. I didn't get a name until I returned to Oslo. And
okay.
as you know, my name is the Vicar. which is probably known as a priest in the Church of England. And I got that name because I was doing these sort of sermons. And the hash was a congregation. And I talk about the origins of the hash in Bethlehem, where it was pretty chaotic because there was no basis for dates at that time. So they decided that we'd have a hash and everything before the hash, BC, before the circle, and AD, after the downs. I just made up a story about this and Jesus turning the water into wine and stuff like that. And so I got the name of the vicar from those sort of performances.
4 years inside, where did you go next? You didn't go straight to Norway, did you?
No, I didn't. As I said, I was working for the Norwegian company in Saudi, but we had a town planning project which was very dependent on a group of Filipino draftsmen to do everything by hand in those days with pens and letter sets and so forth. At the end of this project, we had a huge drafting task to do, which didn't require being in Saudi Arabia anymore. So I got almost like a convalescence. They moved me to the Philippines for about 8 months to continue with the drawing office there. So I was managing about 24 Filipinos in an office in Makati in Manila. At that time, I didn't think hashing was anything that's happened outside of Saudi Arabia. I thought it was an exclusive Saudi pastime. And until I got talking to a guy at the bar, as you do, then hash, oh yeah, we got one here, come along on Monday. So I joined in with the Manila hash. So that was my second hash.
Okay, so you were in the Philippines still working on the Saudi projects. What did you leave behind as professional work output? What did you guys create there?
The project which required all the drafting, initially I was on a telephone planning project where we were planning the telephone network for Saudi Arabia. In my capacity as a land surveyor, we'd put together all these maps into what a future town would look like based on planning maps. And then these guys would come along and they'd plan where they'd need to put the distribution network and the microwaves and things. The second contract I worked on was a town planning project where we did a town and regional study. So the end product of that was basically 120 tons because they wanted 100 copies of everything, 120 tons of maps and atlases and reports showing how 19 individual settlements will be developed, plus a regional network. It was called a comprehensive development plan. There really was.
Well, I'm sure you got R&Rs out of Saudi, but what was the life change moving to Philippines? Were you done with the Middle East once you got to Asia?
I had no real desire to go back. It was a great start to my expat career as my first expert posting I'd ever heard. And at the time, I was really wanting to, okay, there's a good chance to save some money. You know, there'll be nothing to do there, won't be drinking and all that. And that all changed in a matter of about 3 months when I discovered friends and the hush. And so we're going to the Philippines after 4 years in relatively dry conditions. We had our buddies and a way to get around things in Saudi. But going to the Philippines was a bit like a convalescence, and everything was available there. They drink and you can see girls and actually talk to them legally. That was very nice. But I was actually there in 86, which, if you go back, that was the People Power Revolution in the Philippines where they threw out the Ferdinand Marcos and his wife. So I was there right in the middle of that.
Wow. Any notorious hashers there when you landed? Anybody long-term hasher or hashers that you've seen around the world since? Who was in Manila?
Yeah, there was a guy called Pete Bedora, a German guy he had a Somali wife, actually, which was pretty unusual in the middle of Manila. The guy called Jay Savage. Those days, I don't think we even had hash names. I haven't kept in touch with those guys.
Then where to?
After that, it was back to Norway. I arrived in Norway thinking, hey, this hash thing, that was something great in Saudi Arabia and the Philippines. I never thought there'd be a hash in Norway, but yeah, it started in 1989. It was the first run in Norway.
When did you get there?
Big got there in about 87. Discovered the hash a couple of years later. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What was the hash like in Oslo at that point in 89? Do you know where their traditions came from? Did they seem just like what you had done before, or do you know the origin, how that culture got there?
The founding father he was a British, actually Welsh diplomat. He was EU ambassador to Norway.
Wow.
He'd known hashing from Singapore with another Harriet he was called HE, His Excellency, because of his position. They set the first run together from his residence in the island just on the Oslo fjord here. He got off to, I think, they had about 40 runners on the first run, and they really struggled to keep the numbers up because it was a bit of a new concept. Not very Norwegian to drink and run at the same time. They're quite serious about the training. But it kept on going, and with its ups and downs, and there were several people there at the time. I can think of Spermback and Richter, who are still hashing today. They were responsible for setting almost a run a month to get us through the first year.
Yeah.
After that, I just kept on going with numbers around about 20 to 30. And it's gone up and down through the years until now we're quite a healthy hash, I would say. Average turnout is about 30 to 40 a week.
When did you then figure out this thing is everywhere?
Yeah, I think it was first when I got to Norway. And I met the likes of the Wolf, who was GM here at the time for many years. Then just conversing with them, and he really got the Oslo hash to travel and go abroad. And was it 90? They had this Jubilee in Kuala Lumpur. 48 from Oslo on that trip.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. Was that all hashers? 48 hashers? Went.
Pretty much all hashes. There was one or two hangers on family members, but yeah, and we did a skit as well, which I have to take the credit for. You've heard of Baywatch here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did something called Fjord Watch. In Malaysia, they do this silhouette puppet theater. So we combined the idea with this Fjord Watch, and we bought this big, white curtain, the huge 6-meter long curtain, white, and we bought a very strong construction lamp, and we performed in between the lamp and the curtain in silhouette. And it was all about this girl called Randy, which is a legitimate Norwegian name, who was lonely up in the mountains and advertised, and they found the hash, and yeah, I ended up in a gangbang all in silhouette.
Yeah, I don't think that we have videos of that stage act from 98. Yeah.
I got one. On CD.
Oh, you do have it. Oh, if you send that to me, I'll put it on the Interhash YouTube channel that has just when I'm finding these things. Okay, so yeah, that's great. So what was your impression? That had an enormous amount of people. It was in Merdeka Stadium. It was gigantic. And we didn't even fill it, but it was a huge crowd. So what was your impression of an event on that scale?
It really brought home to me, I think, the international appeal of hashing. And it really is across the board, not only with European and American types, but the Asians were full on there. And I've since worked in Africa and see how the Africans are so much into it. It's just something, if you like it, you're completely into it. I don't know how many we were, over 5,000, I think.
Yeah.
Just to see so many people on the same level having such a good time, it really left a big impression on me.
So you were doing this religious metaphor entertainment. Were you on mismanagement? Was that in the role as an RA or something?
Yeah, that was my first role. I got to be RA. Yeah, and then later on, I had a spell where I lived in Tanzania from 92 to 97. And when I came back in 97, I actually got a phone call while I was there for like to be GM. So I came back in 97, I took over as GM, and for a period of about 9 years, I was either RA or GM or sometimes both.
Did you stay in one office for a while? How was Oslo doing their AGM or mismanagement changeover through all that time?
We normally vote in people for 2 years at a time. Yeah. Some people just stayed on, like I did, for about 9 years. But now we have a resurrection committee who goes around and interviews next candidates. And you asked if you want to stay on or if you want to be replaced. It sometimes goes to a vote. I was voted in as Hooray on the last AGM. I knew nothing about it. I didn't got my name as a candidacy, but it ended up Hooray again for the foreseeable future.
Let's talk about Scandinavian hashing and the other clubs in the area and the Interscandi event. When was the first one you got involved in and being part of organizing?
Yeah, the first one was in 1991. That was in Norway. So we initiated the Interscandi hash here in Oslo. That was the mastermind of the Wolf, because he had the international experience and he had a willing team around him. We added up one of the valleys here out of Oslo, and we were young, and so we hired a schoolhouse, and I don't know how many people we had, maybe 70 or so. We never thought about where people were going to sleep. So we were sleeping on the floor. The drinking the runs were more important in those days. I think the walk ended up being twice as long as the long run. A bit of a mess, but and then again in 97 we had it, and in 2009 we did this run of the midnight sun. We got about 150 hashes across to Norway. We went up to a place called Harstad, which is just north of the Arctic Circle, in June. So of course the sun doesn't set there. So we kicked off the whole we organized 3 buses to take us out on Friday night. So none of your pub crawl. This can't really happen in these small places. Now, we put people on the bus, took them up to this.
Do you remember back with the first Interscandi, did you decide it was going to be an every 2-year event? How'd the next one come about? And did it seem like it was going to take off?
No, I don't think we really thought too much about it at that time. It was just, let's organize Interscandi. That was the first move, and the recurrent hashes after that, I don't think we ever thought about.
Did you guys get involved? Do you remember helping the next couple hosts, or did it just take care of itself?
No, I think it pretty much took care of itself. Because, the other candidates, they're pretty capable hashes in Sweden and Denmark. They know what it's about.
In 1998, KL was 60 years of hashing. A lot of people went. It was very cheap to go. It was a cheap place to travel to, everything. Did you keep doing big events? And that 48 people from Oslo, that's a big contingent. Did you go to some more inner hashes? And there's definitely everywhere you go, there's Norwegian hashers at every.
Yeah, we try to make it a point of it. So we never matched the 48, but we've been in force in a place like in Goa. We volunteered to have one of the runs there, so I was involved there. If there's enough of us, we make an event T-shirt with Oslo on it to promote ourselves a bit. So I think that was the 2 major ones. There was a few of us there at Cardiff. In recent years, not so many to the end of hashes, I think. There's so many events in Europe which we like attending as well.
We mentioned the Wolf. What else about him, apart from being a force of nature and a force of hashing? How was it? There's a lot of hashers who have been hashing a long time, say 20 years, that just never met the Wolf, right? He's a legend.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a manager of Lufthansa while he was here. Those management skills you could see rubbed off into his private life and his hashing as well. Because he was quite diplomatic. He knew how to handle people, and hashing can be quite controversial here in Norway. It's not a typical Norwegian habit to run and drink and make a lot of noise and things. They're quite so private people. Wolf, I think, could cut all through that and talk to the individual and calm everyone down. And as well as being a good hasher and good drinker, he liked these runs and good organizer. He was a diplomat and a gentleman as well.
Yeah. Let's just talk about another one of the hashers who's gone on, Digit. Did you know Digit when you guys got involved in Goa 2002?
Yeah, I met him a few times here. I don't know him that well, but we have crossed paths on a few occasions.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing, you've gotten involved as key RAGM for over nearly a decade in a row there in Oslo. And We talked at the recent Interscandi. You were wearing a T-shirt that you designed. What else did you do behind the scenes there?
We do a lot of the organizing of the AGMs. One of the highlights in Oslo, which proved to be the initiator, was that we have our own hash band, which is called Wrong Direction. So we normally introduce ourselves as the most mature boy band in Oslo. And that was initiated just me and a guy called Led of the Ringnes. Ringnes is a type of beer in Oslo. We were just took our acoustic guitars and we did a St. Patrick's Hash every March. And we did that for a few years and we got better, a few more people, got more instruments, and eventually it developed into sort of rock and pop. And now we do about 4 gigs a year. We always do the St. Paddy's. This year we've done 2 hash weddings. And we'll do the AGM, so that's 4 gigs this year. And each of the gigs is tailor made to the wedding people. They get to choose which songs and things. So our next gig, the AGM, it's got the Woodstock theme.
Drugs, nudity, and young. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
How much getting together and rehearsing do you do before a gig then?
Yeah, it's pretty much gig dependent. Typically, we'll start to meet weekly every Tuesday, starting maybe 8 weeks before the gig. It depends how well we know the songs. We got to actually put together all the songs. We actually got a roster of about 150 songs, which we've done to various degrees now. So we can either pick and choose from that, but it's always nice to learn something new every time.
You've never taken it on the road, huh, outside of Norway?
One international gig was for the Stockholm Hash. That was in Interscandi 4 years ago.
Coming up is an Interscandi in Norway in 2 years.
Yeah.
Has the planning for that started, and is the band putting it on its calendar?
We haven't started rehearsing yet, but the 2 years ahead. But one precondition is that we're all still alive at that time. We've made some initial inquiries. I'm basically on the team with a lovely wife, Flying Chicken. We've been together since 97 when I came back from Africa. She's also a world famous hasher. I've hashed in 54 different countries. She's actually beat me by 2 countries, I think.
Yeah.
We're basically starting to look at the Interscandi, one very promising location, which is so within the Oslo boundaries. But definitely a Wrong Direction will be playing.
You mentioned 2 hash weddings that Wrong Directions played at, and we call these people who picked up their partner on the hash bottom feeders. So the standard query is hashing good for marriage, and is marriage good for hashing for you?
Absolutely. I'm with my wife on the hash, and as I said, that was in 1997. And we've been together ever since. We got married in 2015 when we saw that this is it. It has to go on. But I think one of the nice things about hashing and meeting a bona fide hasher is that a lot of the normally unanswered questions about meeting a new partner are already answered.
Yeah.
Some basic qualities about this person that they probably like to run and they like to take care of themselves. So I think most of the hashers are decent people with professional backgrounds, but at the same time, they don't take themselves too seriously, and they got a sense of humor, and they like to have a drink.
Yeah, the hash is a widely diverse community, but the guardrails are there for wacko behavior. It self-vets out people that can't take a joke on themselves and everything else. That's true. I don't know that much else about Norwegian hashing. What else besides Oslo has come and gone in Norwegian hashing?
Something that's come and probably to stay is that we do a ski weekend every year. So we go up, we hire some of the cabins in the mountains, and it's Friday and Sunday. And so it normally involves doing the trail on cross-country skis. A very nice terrain and usually good snow conditions. There's been a few exceptions when it's been icy, which has not been too good for the people who haven't skied before. But we manage somehow, and then that involves snow games as well. Not such big numbers, sometimes up to 50. So we quite often do a sort of degree of self-catering and do some games in the snow. And there's normally a sauna involved as well in it. a bit of legitimate nudity. There was one year when it was a central arrangement, a place called Shusha with separate cabins. And I think hashes occupied maybe 8 of the cabins. So they thought it was a good idea to do a sauna crawl. So from cabin to cabin, there was a bunch of guys wrapping their towels and beers and charging for all the cabins. Then they found out that not all the cabins were rented out. Then they barged in a family sauna with all their beers and all. Again, it was explained and they found it. They found it okay.
Is that schoolhouse still there? The one that you did the original Interscandi?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah, it's just up the road from where I live. I quite often cycle past there and take my motorbike out for a ride past there. Is where I go skiing. There's a few valleys extending from Oslo, which there's a lot of activities, sports and the like. So I pass it maybe twice a month.
I mentioned the Hash Olympics t-shirt design that you did. It's got 10 of the hash takes on sports or words that sound like sports. There's traveling shirts with the Oslo hash. Who does most of those designs? Is that you? And do you have any other designers in your pack?
It's gone through different phases. We've got quite a long history now. So it was, guys, so something whale. I don't remember at the beginning. I did some of the line drawings. Those days, of course, all that would be done by hand. And then it went through a period when I was GM from 97 onwards where I actually did a lot of the designs myself. Yeah, again, by hand, all colors separated on different astrofoils, we used to call them, these plastic foils, one on top of the other, one for each color. Actually,
and you did the printing. You printed them.
Yeah. So 2 or 3 color printing. Yeah. So there had to be a foil made for each color individually. I think things are a lot more automated these days, but that's how it was done then. So I think I can take credit for maybe somebody has made maybe 10 t-shirts that I've designed myself. There's one thing I do like about hash t-shirts, that it should be unique design. I don't like repetition. Actually, this weekend, tomorrow, myself and Flying Chicken are airing the Danish invasion. This is also an annual event in Oslo where the Copenhagen hash came on the ferry on the Friday afternoon at around about 2:30. And that's when the drinking starts. So they arrived in Oslo at about 10:15 and crawl off the ferry, pretty hungover. And we take them for a run and some food and drinks and pull them back onto the ferry at about 3-4 in the afternoon for the journey home. They do that in autumn every year, so that's tomorrow. That'll be, I think, the 20th time that they're doing it. We do the equivalent in around about March, April, where the Noggy invasion goes down. So last year was a 10-year anniversary of that, and I actually did the t-shirt for that. This time, I've actually updated myself, and I did use AI to create the image. So I'm not as old-fashioned as I look.
Yeah. Do you have any of those t-shirts right there?
No, not right here.
How did you change, and how did the hash change over this decades? You going from being the young, fully, you can run as hard as you can party as hard as you can, and that changes for all of us over time. You got married, the hash changes, maybe the hash got older. What's your view of this on the long view of your hashing?
It's interesting to see the changes. As I'm now 67. I started hashing when I was about 23, 24. Obviously, just the physical change in myself is noticeable, but I'm lucky I'm still running. Not all that fast, but I still run. For a one-off, I did my first ever marathon 3 years ago when I was 64.
You waited long enough.
Yeah, well, I wanted to do the McDuck marathon, which I was going to join in a few hashes, but they'd just done it and they wanted a break before they did it again. So it just didn't work out. So I did my own thing before it got too late. Having said that, we just had about 10 hashes running the McDuck marathon this last weekend.
Yeah, nice.
Back to the question, the changes in the hash. Yeah, it's different variations of the same. But what does remain the same is the humor and the lightheartedness and getting away from the work environment and meeting a bunch of people that are on the same level. And you talk on a different level to other hashes than you do to strangers or somebody in a professional career. The barriers are already broken down for you. You got to concentrate on a lot more bullshit there.
Yeah, there's no time wasting figuring out if it's safe to make a joke or anything else. Yeah.
Cheers. I think, let's say that
What?
Oslo is pretty healthy. We've had an injection of some younger people along the way, and that's really nice for me to see that the continuation is probably there because these guys love it to the same degree that we did and still do. Yeah, they're setting the trails and they're traveling and just enjoying it in the same degree that we did.
On your travels, have you bumped into people that are hashing now in Saudi or Sulaymaniyah? Ever get an update on what it's like there?
Uh, no, not recently. No, I don't really know anyone there now.
Yeah.
The only guy was Gigolo. He was yeah, fairly recent. No, not recently. No,
Yeah.
no, I
What,
pretty much
what
lost touch with those guys.
the Interscandi now has been going for many decades. The one most recently held in Germany had one bidder. You were the only ones that stood up to set the next one, but it seems like it's gone really well, and there might be other Scandinavian countries stepping up. I don't have the impression that Interscandi is at any risk of ending, even though we've only had one bidder the last two events. What do you guys think about that?
I think yeah, by intonation, Interscandi, you would think that means the Scandinavian countries: Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. You could extend that to Nordic countries, and that would also include Iceland. But the Interscandi broke those boundaries some years ago with runs in Glasgow and in Galway and in Hamburg. So I think by nature, it's basically wherever Vikings have had sex.
Yeah,
So you still got a bunch of countries to choose from.
yeah.
But I think
Even
now it's
probably even the Philippines if they really wanted to. Yeah.
yeah, truly. But now it's got into a bit of a rotation where there's enough countries on the rota to have enough of a break and then appear again when the turn comes. And that's basically what I think people have been looking at us and we knew ourselves that was our turn again.
Yeah. You and Flying Chicken, what else is on your calendar every year? Apart from the e-hash and the local things, do you have any international events that you're repeating, or what's your hash travel, hash planning outlook?
Yeah, obviously the Interscandi is pretty important to us because it's close to home and a lot of our friends are in the closest circle. Yeah, we tend to go to the Eurohash. Some of these, but we also like some of the smaller ones, like what do you call it? The girls that do the bubbly hash.
The Diva?
Yeah, so we've done quite a few of those diva things. Some of the smaller hashes where you actually get to talk to people who are actually quite nice.
Let me ask you about your personal marathon experience. How'd that go at age 60?
Yeah, it's actually, I was noticing I was starting to go downhill, but I'm actually with a sort of formal training program. It was pretty disciplined, and my body responded to the training. I was like every Friday for the last 7 or 8 weeks. So I was running back from work about 20 kilometers, and the last bit is 150 meters uphill, of course. So we're putting in a few intervals into that. So it actually went okay. I used a little bit over 5 hours, but that's okay. 5 hours what I thought I would do it in.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I realized that I get cramps, so I took some electrolyte with me and some magnesium tablets, and the Flying Chicken was there halfway to give me a refill of that. I'm a little bit ashamed about one point. When I got to the end, I thought, really, as a hasher, I should open a beer and down it. The only thing I wanted, because it was 6 degrees when we started. It wasn't all that warm, and it got 13 degrees, maximum during the day. And we'd been given all these cold drinks. The only thing I wanted as an Englishman was a cup of tea.
That's right. That's pretty brutal. Wow, better than running one in Saudi Arabia, but that's that sounds okay. What about these country lists? You do know how many countries you've been to. Are there any other countries you're going to chase at some point with your holiday plans? Hashing countries?
Yeah, I wouldn't say to clock up countries is the purpose of our holidays, but if it matches, then yeah. One of my ambitions as I get into retirement, which should not be such a long wait, is to end up in Australia. So that'd be a new one to me. And of course, that's a mecca for hashing there. got a lot of friends, not only through the hash, but when I lived in Tanzania, there was a lot of people in the coffee industry there. I got a cousin who lives there and several of the acquaintances through hashing. We got a lot of people who can visit there, and of course, hashing will be a part of that, and maybe New Zealand as well. It sounds like a country I should get to once before I get too old.
When you're an RA and a GM for a long time, you run a lot of circles. How are you when you're not in charge? Are you a heckler or are you a good circle attendee? What's your behavior like?
The I can say there's the English roots lie me quite deeply. I'm extremely well behaved and a gentleman and a scholar. There's no other way to put it. Like I said, one of the good things about being an RA is attending an RA is that it actually develops your skills as a communicator. That's something which you probably know about. And it really helped me in my professional life, I would say.
Wow.
And making presentations and standing up in front of people. Initially, when I started, I was so shy. I was nearly physically sick before circles, just at the thought of facing other people. Now it just doesn't bother me. But of course, it's a very different audience than, say, professional context. But it does help to hone your life skills.
Okay, now I'm going to allow you to embarrass yourself. We were all together at a party in Brussels for Higgins, and they did have a Sunday trail.
Yeah. So
and somehow you managed to miss that. Tell everybody what happened.
I guess I'm not going into all the details, but we were flying home with SAS, and there was a strike action, and they cancelled our ticket and reissued it for what we thought was 3:00 in the afternoon of the Sunday, which meant that we had to go to the airport and miss the run. When we got to the airport, we managed to check in, put our baggage through and all that, and we got to the security and we couldn't get through. And the girl looked at the ticket and said, "This is for tomorrow." So I had to get our baggage back. Fortunately, we got an overnight stay in the Sheraton Hotel, which was all right, and we made a commiseration by walking up the nearest village, which I recommend. It's got 5 bars, 2 pizza places, 2 kebab places, and a motorcycle shop.
Nice.
The next day, we actually had time, because it was 3:00 on the Monday we were flying. So we actually had time to go on to Brussels in the morning on Monday morning. But we just did our best to try to avoid hashes because we knew they were circling around on the guided tour.
They're still there Monday.
But okay, the dirty truth comes out now. Thank you for asking.
It's a good story. We all have done things that didn't work out, but it could have been worse. When you first told me about that, I misread it and I thought there was a lightning strike, but that was a labor strike, was it?
Yeah, it was just a ground worker strike.
Yeah, I misunderstood that, and I thought, oh God, you could have been on the plane and got hit by lightning when you just said it was a strike. What about the future of the hash? It's strong in Norway, it's strong in Scandinavia, Nordic hashers, and the culture's strong. Like you said, hashing has been hashing for 40 some years for you. If someone was dropped into today's hash, they'd recognize it if they had only hashed in 1983 and somehow time machine to the future. What do you think 50 years from now? The pace of change of the world, technology, communications, political views of public behavior, everything's changing. How do you think the hash will survive when we're all gone another 50 years from now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Because a lot of things do change around us, especially with technology, AI. As you say, everything has to be politically correct these days. But at the same time, a lot of things do remain the same. There's no difference between putting on a pair of running shoes 50 years ago and following a trail to now. It's basically the same concept. I think the camaraderie is something which can't really be touched by developments and technology. I think I just look back at my father, the things that he enjoyed. He used to enjoy barbershop singing and things like that, but he'd love to go to the pub afterwards. It was always part of it. So that's going back to his generation. But the same qualities I still like. So I think the qualities that keep the hash together, of the camaraderie and the fun and the humor Sometimes the human might have to be tapered a little bit. We're getting more and more sensitive. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think a lot of the American hashes are a bit too crass and coarse. I think in Scandinavia, we're fairly decent. We sing the songs, but we're like extreme.
Yeah, you're all gentlemen and scholars, even the ladies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think these basic qualities of the fun and the camaraderie and the humor, things which time can't really touch. So I'm really optimistic for the future.
That's good.
And I've seen the same behavior in some of our younger members as well.
Yeah. Hopefully some of them will get a job as an RA one day if they're shy, and it'll up their career too. That's a good story. One last thing. Is the RA always right?
I'll send you an SMS, okay?
All right, Vicar, anything else you want to get in here? It's been good talking to you. Do you have a most memorable run?
I got several, but I think one that kind of sticks out, especially at the moment with the problems in the Middle East, is that we did a trip to Levant. I think it was about 10 days in Syria and Lebanon. I think it was 2011, just 6 months before the troubles broke out in Syria.
Wow.
We were out in the desert. It was Sweetwa Hash Mama that organized it. And a lot of the famous hashes were there. I think we were bus load anyway, so around about 50. So we were out in Palmyra, which is a Roman settlement out in the Syrian desert up towards the Iraqi border. We're passing the signs for Iraq and thinking about it and knowing what was going on there. But we were there in Palmyra. There's this fantastic Roman ruin. A lot of it's quite nicely intact, including a very nice amphitheater. And we ran through that from a castle on the one side right to the old town. But I just say, no, it was so moving. So I really felt privileged to be there at the time. We stayed overnight in a Bedouin encampment, and the girls were using tent poles to do pole dancing. And we were just having a ball with these so-called Bedouin, but they were the tourist Bedouin. 6 months after that, the troubles started and IS took over, and they were executing people in the same amphitheater as we've been taking selfies of ourselves. But really, and the Syrian people were such nice people, very kind to us, and thought nothing was running through their land, coming out, offering apples for us. And it just goes to show as well that we got more in common than we have differences, really.
Yeah. That's one that really saddens me. Syria is one of my favorite countries. I've hashed in Damascus before anything was really started there. And yeah, Palmyra is just not the same as it was. There was quite a lot of damage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great story. Who organized that trip to Levant?
Yeah, she was called Hash Mama.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I haven't seen her since. Yeah, it was a good trip. In Lebanon as well.
Yeah. One hash I did in Lebanon, it was a full moon hash, and there was a lunar eclipse, and it was just magic. Yeah, that's good. They do a ski hash also, huh? I don't know if Lebanon if they're still doing it, but they did a ski hash for a while.
Yeah, some of the Oslo hashes have attended that.
All right. Any other people you want to shout out to or tell them?
If I start, there's too many, and I'll feel guilty because I've left them all out. But just thanks to all the friends that I've made, and keep on saying I see my hash friends more often than I see my family quite often. I think many of us do. So really, the hash is almost taken over as a family for many of us.
Yeah, that's great. It's a really good story, and you have a long history. It's good to see that you're still out on trail after 41 years on the hash. It's really good. You're a scholar and a gentleman and an inspiration, I'm sure, to a lot of young hashers. You have a great attitude. Thanks for your time, Vicar.
Yeah, you're welcome.
On.
To close the circle, here's the hash anthem sung by Mother Hash.
Swing low, sweet child.